So why don't we start the meeting? It is Monday, August 25th, 2025. This is the meeting of the Board of Finance Purchasing Subcommittee. So I will call the meeting to order. I guess we should stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. It's item number 2 on our agenda. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Item number 3 on our agenda is.
Hello.
Item number 3 on our agenda is to hear, consider, and approve the draft minutes of March 2nd, 2023, January 27th, 2025, and April 28th, 2025. Does anyone have any corrections or revisions they wanted to submit?
I just would like to see if we could either do them individually.
Yep.
Or at least the first one separate from the second two.
Yeah, we can do them all individually. Okay, so the first set of minutes is for, March 2nd, 2023. Are there any corrections or revisions? I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I mean, I can second even though I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. And so I'll have a vote. All in favor? I'll vote yes. Any noes?
Abstention.
And one abstention.
So it's just the two of you, right?
Yeah.
okay.
So it passes because it. I was thinking about it myself. Okay, the second minutes are for January 27th, 2023. Does anyone have? 25. 25. Does anyone have any suggested adjustments? No? All right, so I will make a motion to accept these minutes as they appear before us. All in favor? 2, there's no noes and no abstentions. Okay, and the last one is for April 28th, 2025. Are there any suggested changes? Don't see any? Okay, so I will make a motion to accept these minutes as presented. Okay, two yays, no noes and no abstentions. Item number 4 on our agenda is to hear an update from the town's purchasing director and internal auditor on the purchasing policy, contract management system, and modified pink voucher policy. Okay, so I don't know who would like to begin. Adam?
I could take it away. So yeah, I prepared about 7 or 8 comments, and they kind of go in order of the sections of the purchasing policy, and within those are a couple of big items that are included in that resolution, including talk of the contract management system and pink voucher policy. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just kind of keep it in that structure, but obviously if questions come up, we can go into more detail. So my first comment is I think things are going fairly well with the purchasing policy. One recurring comment we're getting, though, is just how cumbersome the length of it is. So I've been talking to Connie and Tom, and I think what we're thinking about doing is creating maybe like a 2 or 3 page, almost like Cliff Note version of the document that we can more widely distribute to all the end users. And it's just sort of our ongoing due diligence of making sure the the information is getting to all the appropriate people. So that's just a comment I wanted to mention, something we're looking at to make sure everyone's getting the right information. Um, my next comment, just something I brought up in a previous meeting, we've talked about the conflict of interest language in the policy. Previously, HR had asked me to look into either adjusting the language in the policy or just referencing the new policy that the town approved, but I don't really have any updates on this. As you may or may not know, there's been a lot of turnover in that department since we last met, so I haven't had an opportunity to really dive into this one too much yet. So I hope that's okay with you guys. The next item is our first big piece of news. Over the last couple months, we've been transitioning to an e-bidding platform, which it's an exciting change for us. It does directly tie into some comments I have about Section 2.0 of the purchasing policy. There, well, let me just read my note and I'll get there. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we recently transitioned to Bonfire e-bidding platform. We no longer manually receive, store, or open bids outside of the online platform. Everything is completely auditable through Bonfire, so there's no smoke and mirrors or anything there. But many of the bullet points in Section 2.0D kind of are not really relevant anymore. So I guess my recommendations on that are we either leave them in there for now as a record of best practices, but maybe with some sort of note indicating that we're now utilizing this new system, or perhaps a note indicating that in addition to these best practices, something about technological advances, that account for these will also be acceptable. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I can work on some specific language unless you have ideas. I think it's pretty straightforward, just adding a bullet saying basically what I just said, that technological advances that account for each of these bullets may also be acceptable, or something like that. So with that, I have just a few more words about Bonfire itself, if you want to hear about it. I can't remember how much of it I've told you guys before, but it's going to bring really exciting improvements to our team. We're already underway. All summer we've been transitioning. Aside from the digitization of the bids and all of their associated records are going to take us light years ahead of where we've been in terms of efficiency, ease of public access to records, things like that. And as we continue the transition, we'll be moving also into their contract management suite, which is going to help improve the way we track and store documents related to project awards, contract expiration, renewals, insurance. So we're really excited about the functions that this new program is going to give us. So do you have any questions about Bonfire, or do you want me to keep going with some of the other sections?
Sort of would like to hear him walk us through the software, how it works, how people enter their bids, a little bit of how the process is, because we haven't really heard it, I don't think.
Yep. Yeah. So this company Bonfire they're one of the more established companies in this marketplace. So what I can tell you is they've been knocking down Bonfire, and other companies like them have been knocking down the door of myself and my fellow purchasing peers for close to 10 years now. And for a number of years, we were all very skittish about some of these very questions you're asking. How can we make sure the bids are secure? How can we make sure bidders know how to do it? All sorts of things like that. And so Bonfire, the company we selected, they're one of the most established. And what I would add is sort of one of the upshots of the pandemic, if I can frame it that way respectfully, is going remote definitely made this a lot more palatable to a lot of towns, a lot of my peers, to move towards this e-bidding structure. And they're at a place now where they've got, nationwide thousands and thousands of vendors. They will work with us on doing outreach to our local vendors to make sure they know how to submit bids still. But basically, you go to our town website, you go to the purchasing page, and there's a link. Sort of like if you go and pay your tax bill on the town website, behind the scenes, you're actually going to a third-party website, but you feel as if you're still in the town of Fairfield webpage. So it's sort of the same structure like that. And it also is going to improve the way we can work with our internal departments on getting bids put together efficiently. So there's different levels that you can access depending on who you are. If you're just Joe Q Public, you can go to our website and you can see what bids we have, what the results are, everything that currently can be done. But sometimes at present, things might be missed. We might forget to post a bid tabulation. Under Bid Bonfire, that will not happen. It's just all going to automatically be there. If you're a bidder, you have to sign up with a special login, and that gives you access to specific documents. It also will give us a clue on who's interested in our bids. So that's a piece of information we've never had before, that we're really excited about. And then lastly, internal users within the departments will have a separate login as well, so that we can collaborate on preparing the bids and evaluating bids and RFPs and get contracts awarded. So it's kind of a lot to explain. I know I just rambled a bit, but we're very excited, and I really feel optimistic about what it's going to do for us.
Adam, can you mention the fact that we did talk to other vendors as we went through the process?
Yes, we did get demonstrations from at least 4 vendors, and this was by far the most cost-effective, the best bang for our buck, in terms of what the annual software fee will be versus the number of users we'll be able to get. And I don't have the information in front of me, but they prepared a cost-benefit analysis for us that looked just was superior to the other companies we reached out to, in addition to their lengthy experience in the sector.
Can I just comment? I mean, first of all, I think this is fantastic that we're finally at a place where we are automating something like this. I mean, from every meeting that I've been on, there's been talk about it, but it's never actually been done. So I think that's great. I'm just a little surprised that I'm hearing it tonight for the first time, that you've already selected them. And it sounds like you've been researching and going out to bid and you've looked others. I mean, we were here in April and you didn't mention this. And, you've been training people on the purchasing policy. I don't know why we bothered doing that if we probably need to train them on this new software, which is way more important than the policy. And I would think that the software will be the policy, right? The software will be configured to implement the policy. Like, you really shouldn't need to look at a policy if you have really good software that is configured to put in the right questions and limitations when somebody reaches, a certain dollar amount and all that kind of thing. So is it that sophisticated, or am I
Well, no, I think you're right to an extent. The only thing I would add is, the purchasing policy does touch on things outside of what Bonfire will do, like what we do in Munis with purchase orders, the non-purchase order, what we call the pink voucher policy that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, you're right. No, I hear what you're saying. We ended up utilizing a government contract, so we did not actually complete a formal town of Fairfield bid process to select this vendor. But that is within policy to utilize a government or cooperative purchasing procedure. But it happened very quickly, honestly. You're right. I was with you in April. We were.
That doesn't sound, what did you, I don't know if I
I
understood what
guess,
you just said.
so did this go through the budget, like as part of our budget line for the purchasing department, the purchase of the software? I guess that's usually where we hear about it.
Yeah,
that
there was, the
we
money
were-
for this came out of the IT budget. They have
IT budget.
software, they had a budgeted item for software in there, and I think the first year was, is it 15 or 25,000, Adam?
Yeah, the first year is more because of the implementation cost.
But the funds came out of the IT software budget.
So maybe that's what, maybe it's.
And it is something that we've been looking at for a while. You know, I think we actually looked at other systems longer than we did Bonfire. But, you know, we kind of got to a point where I kind of pushed Adam to move this along. And Bonfire came in. And I think we made a decision on them within, I don't know, it was about a month, I think. But it did happen pretty quickly.
It happened in May. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you like it, Tom? You're very excited about it?
Yeah, I was very involved in you know, I sat in on several of the other presentations. At least one other company was 4 times the value price of what we would pay here. And I mean, cosmetically it looked great, but in terms of functionality, it didn't do much more than what Bonfire does. But I sat in on the demos, and so yeah, I liked it.
I mean, in terms of cost savings, does it reduce man hours? I mean, could you see a future savings of FTEs?
I mean, over the long term, maybe, certainly not right away, but long term, potentially. But I think the thing that helps a lot is just the contract management piece, where you have contracts expiring and you miss it, you know, so I mean, that's the piece. It's gonna be a lot more, it's gonna be more efficient.
It's gonna help solve a lot of our problems, it sounds like.
It's going to solve a lot of the problems. And
Yeah, we didn't do it to save headcount per se, we did it to improve, you know, efficiency where we can, so.
And we do expect it to increase the number of bids we receive, which isn't a guarantee of savings, but, you know, hopefully if you're getting more competition, you know, we've really, over the last couple of years, been starting to see kind of a shrinking of the number of bidders we were getting, just the same bidders for all the same types of projects. So we're really optimistic this is going to expand that reach.
So I have a question with that. Does this software go out like to the state or to different levels? Or when we post a bid, are we still posting the bids in the same place that we've always had?
So it's still the same place. We still post all of our bids to the state's contract portal, and it's still a link on our website. It's just that's what I was trying to say about the tax collector. When you go to the tax collector's webpage and say you want to pay my bill, it behind the scenes it's taking you to a third-party website, but you still feel as though you're on the Town of Fairfield webpage. This is going to work much the same. You're clicking on the link that's taking you to Bonfire, but you're still going to appear to be the Town of Fairfield purchasing page.
So it's managing the same bids, it's just managing them and collecting data and organizing it.
Yeah.
So it will tell you who looked at a particular bid because they had to log in to look at the bid, and it will track that data and how many people actually looked at the bid versus how many people then submitted a bid. And
Yeah, it'll tell us who downloaded the plans and specifications, which in sort of the old days, that was easy to track because companies had to come into a purchasing office and buy copies of the plans and specs. But with the advent of the internet and home computers, that went away and it got harder for us to track. So this is actually a cool way that using technology, we're getting information we used to be able to get. So
you would be able to then reach out to people who don't bid and find out why not, why they
exactly.
why they weren't interested. And And at the same time, then you can go back, if it's something that's bid every 3 years, you can go back and collect that data of who was interested and say, hey, we're posting a bid.
Yeah.
And it's-
Exactly. And again, on the contract management side, the system has what they call a dashboard that's going to make sure we know when a bid is up and when we need to go back out to bid and all those things, which right now we've gotten better at, but we're doing manually and as sort of like a external process. So
And now, as far as townwide users, people who aren't going to bid, they can still log into the site then and see what bids were posted and who bid on them and who won the bid?
yeah, anybody can go without a login and see what bids are active, what bids have recently expired, who was awarded, things like that. If you want more information, you need to set up you could set up a free login to look at what the actual plans and specs are. And then, yeah, we'll have internal users that we, meaning like the engineering department, the capital projects department, the police department, who we will, assign users to collaborate with us internally. So we're reducing the amount of paper and emails going back and forth with drafts and comments, and it'll all be through track changes within Bonfire. So we're very excited about that.
Sounds good. Jim, did you have more questions?
I was just going to request that maybe we could have a demo at a future meeting.
We will definitely do that. I would say, I don't know, maybe, well, is Prue in there actually? I think we're pretty far into the training program, and I think we just wanted to make sure that we had a full, a firm grasp of it before we started, presenting it a little more.
Yeah, we have like 6 more weeks of training or 4 more weeks of training, and we're posting things on it, and doing all that stuff, but we're still at the same time kind of learning also different parts of the software.
Okay, great.
But it's really good.
You like it?
I do. It at first, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little overwhelming just because our old system was so different. But now everything is in one place and it's so much better. It cuts out paper and like if Connie put out something, if she wanted to put out a bid to find, I don't know, whatever she would do, she could go in there and she could see everything that we see. She couldn't edit it or do anything with it, but she could see like who's interested in her bid and what's going on with it. People can see that kind of stuff. But it's completely separate from the purchasing policy because it only deals with bids and RFPs and things like that.
So now, does it go one step further when the bid is accepted? Does it then track those bids into contracts and the dates and implementation of them?
Yeah, we have
Yes.
put dates in there before it's posted.
Mm-hmm.
We have a series of dates for different events that are going to happen with it.
So as far as the bid or as far as then the future contract? So like if
The
the
contract.
Well, the
requires
contract is
then-
part of that,
Okay,
so
okay.
Yeah,
so-
that's the dashboard I was speaking about.
And like requirements to post a bond or things like that, that will be all flagged within the software.
yes.
Yeah, we created a sort of a checklist with Bonfire of all the sort of mandatory things and so there'll be different triggers when a new project gets input that will tell us on the purchasing side whether we need to get prevailing wages, whether we need to get state CHRO language in the bid or things like that. So and then once the bid is awarded, it's going to streamline the contract management piece where we're tracking those deadlines, seeing when things are up for renewal, Honestly, we haven't gotten there yet, but there's potentially even options to include a DocuSign feature to get contracts executed more quickly. Because right now it's a pretty lengthy process for us to bring a contract to the Board of Selectmen, have both sides attorneys review, get the vendor to sign, get the first selectman to sign, and so we think there's going to be some real time savings down the road there as well. So.
And is there a process that you can submit, like, secure documents back and forth to bidders and to us too, if that was needed? Like a share file kind of thing, or?
I believe it has pretty expansive storage capabilities. I don't know what the exact amount is, but the idea is so that we don't have to, because right now we do have a town file share or share drive that we can use for large documents, but it's all kind of piecemeal. I think this is going to enable us to really share files of all sizes more easily across the board.
And where we used to have to do addendums for requests for information, for instance, I have a bid that's out, and they emailed the questions into Bonfire, and I sent those questions outside of Bonfire. I kind of copied and pasted them to the parties who would answer them for me. And then as soon as I answered the questions in Bonfire, they go public.
Okay, so all bidders can then see those?
Yes, and they get notifications.
That's pretty good. Yeah, so I agree with Jim's request for a demo, and not only do I think our committee would like to see it, I think the audit committee and maybe the full board would like that as well.
Yeah, so I noticed on your agenda you have an item for to discuss future meetings. I think we'd probably I would assume by whenever that next meeting is going to be, we should be ready to give a demonstration. I do have a few more notes. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to catch?
Sure.
Mr. Penley just come
I don't
in?
know if we want to give Shane a quick summary of.
Am I really late, or do we just start?
No, 6 o'clock.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. 6:30.
Yeah.
You guys go on, don't.
Okay, so continue on, and we'll update Shane as we need to.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to touch on things I've talked to you guys about before, even if there's not a lot. So I'll be brief. But I had previously talked to you about the local MRO program, some concerns I had about that and whatnot. But I guess I just wanted to report that as of now, I several months in, or however long we are now, I think it's actually working pretty well. As you may or may not remember, it was restricted to only vendors within New Haven and Fairfield counties. Whether or not you want to restrict that further, I don't have a strong opinion either way. I do not feel like the policy is being abused at this point. It's small dollar purchases for basic maintenance, repair, and operation needs. So if there's Hemlock Hardware, Ganem's Nursery, places like that, or Fairfield Electric, where departments are setting up sort of small dollar blanket purchase orders, and they're authorized to use these for up to $50,000 a year cumulatively, without having to go through the other, policy procedures. So, if you want to look more carefully at this, I'm open to that, but I don't think it's being abused at this point. I think it's okay.
So what was the blanket dollar amount per year?
It's $50,000 a year, cumulatively. So that you're not supposed to use that like a single $50,000 purchase. It's intended for small dollar, picking up hardware, picking up,
Almost like an on account kind of.
Exactly.
Situation. So if you're working on a job and you need certain things, you can just run to those local businesses and get that. So
Yeah.
it's not really, like we were talking about, that it might be no longer needed because of Prime on Amazon, but this is very kind of different. This is on the job, your local businesses, and I can see why that would simplify what you're trying to get done at work, and probably mostly Public Works is using this, and
Yeah.
and it helps local businesses in town too. So,
And perhaps just as a little foreshadowing, Tom, Connie, and I have been looking a lot at, well, we've been starting to look a lot at the credit card policy, which is kind of separate from the purchasing policy, but I think we're going to probably be, I guess, restricting further credit card usage in the coming months. So I think programs like this will help with that transition. So it's just sort of a foreshadow there.
and then one last question, because it's a blanket 50,000 per year, is there a process that it's reviewed like quarterly or at certain times during the year to see how much it's being used and what type of items are, like, does someone review it? Like, that we're not going over the 50,000 or?
So I review it, but that's actually a great point. I do not currently have like a set structure to that. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to just start doing that now. I'll set up a quarterly reminder, tracking these vendors that fall under the MRO program and seeing where we lie. Honestly,
Because I don't even know if 50,000 is the right number, like.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
We may want to issue like a quarterly report.
Well,
Yeah,
the alternative is if 50,000. Well, okay, the alternative is we could either change the number, or if we have vendors where we're really exceeding 50,000, I mean, maybe we look to put out some kind of bid for whatever. I'd have to think about what the structure looks like, but the idea of this program was never to skirt the purchasing policy. It was just, to try to, for those daily
simplify the process.
Yeah. So I don't have specific numbers to report to you, but I will start tracking that, and maybe we could talk further down the road about options if it looks like it's just not even close or something. Any other questions on that, or can I move on to my next?
Shane? Okay. All
Okay.
right.
So my next one is coming from section 6 of the purchasing policy, the section on exemptions. So I just I can't remember how much I've talked about this with you guys before, but I just wanted to touch on it again. So in section 6.1A, it talks about emergency procurements and the need to get Board of Finance basically pre-approval before an emergency purchase. And I just wanted to, I honestly don't have any skin in the game one way or the other, but I just wanted to remind the group that when this language was originally put in the policy, I don't want to put words in her mouth, so I'll just state I'm broadly paraphrasing here. But my recollection is that Ms. Charlton had received guidance from the previous town attorney, specifically to the language that says an emergency procurement must be concurred upon by the majority of the Board of Finance. She had been advised that a simple email vote or a phone call vote would be sufficient for a concurrence. But since then, the new town attorney has pretty clearly stated there's no such thing as a informal concurrence vote. You either have to have a formal meeting with a formal vote or have nothing. So I just wanted to get this on your radar as, something I've thought about is, do we want to change that since the legal opinion has changed, or do we want to keep it? I understand. I think the rationale behind Ms. Charlton wanting it in originally was if there's going to be a big true emergency that's going to have expenses beyond, what's been budgeted, the Board of Finance needs to know. And I certainly understand that. On the flip side, the argument would be if there's a true emergency, we need to be able to act quickly. So, that those are sort of the two sides, and I just wanted to put it
So
before you guys to get your take.
my opinion on that is like, in the past, like it would be like a school boiler or something that was gonna be replaced within the week, or when we were doing, all those schools building committees, and they wanted to make a change to something that was already approved, we would get called in, and if we got 4 members or 5 members in to a quorum in to, I guess it was 5 members in, to vote on it, that's all we really needed. And we often did that back like around 2000, 2001. So I can remember having those type of meetings, but then at the same time, we had emergencies in town, like Hurricane Sandy, or the library had pipes broke, and emergency decisions had to be made. And so to me, it seems like maybe there's a committee that needs to be set up that can make that decision on the spot, such as the first selectman, either the police chief or fire chief, who's ever involved, and then maybe you as purchasing director, or Tom as our chief fiscal officer, and you guys make that decision and then report immediately to the Board of Finance that it was made. And to me, that seems like it would be a better solution for the town, because it would get an immediate response. And like in Hurricane Sandy, I think we proactively got the pumps before the storm hit. And if we had to wait for a committee to meet, it might have been a lot worse. So that's the example I remember being given. And so I think something like that we have to plan for.
So it's saying that an emergency response is required by virtue of a legal requirement arising under federal or state law. What is that contemplating there? That we would be required to make a purchase because of some obligation, some statutory obligation, like what are they?
So maybe an example, although we ended up bringing this to the board anyway, but I don't know if you remember, maybe 6 months ago or so, Michelle Gore from the WPCA came because there was a state law that had changed, and they had sort of a massive new expense they had to account for I can't honestly remember the specifics of what it was, but like I guess you can make an argument that that's a situation that fell under this example you're saying, where a state law changed and we had to do this.
But Mary's talking about something else, right? So that's a good example. But I think what Mary's contemplating is like a natural disaster where we're not required by statute to act, but by practical reasons, right? And then in the way that this is written, it's like you can't do that.
Right.
So we should maybe perhaps amend it to capture a broader scope of emergency situations.
Yeah.
I mean, because the hurricane's a good example, right?
Right. Yeah. So maybe it is like when I was talking like the heating system and stuff. By state law, you have to have heat in your school buildings too. So that maybe that's what part of how that got worded.
I think I like what you're saying there. Like it does seem a little bit impractical to assume that whatever 9 volunteers are going to be able to get together at any minute.
Right.
So I'm kind of in favor of what you're suggesting. But if you're going to give, my view is if you're going to give these emergency powers to those town officials and then take it out of the elected board, it probably needs to be fleshed out. The circumstances why you would do that.
And maybe I agree, and maybe we would also, so like right now, I'm supposed to report to you guys I'm supposed to report to the Board of Finance as a whole every so often with a purchasing exceptions report, in which I present to you all the other kinds of bid waivers we've had. I guess an idea I had was, what about instead of prior to action, what if there was a requirement within X number of hours or X number of days, as opposed to with the rest of the bid waivers, I just have to go, at the next scheduled meeting or something. I don't know. That was just an idea I had, maybe to add
I
some
think a
level of
simple-
comfort.
To require a simple email is probably pretty easy to do, just to alert us so we know.
Add an alert.
I kind of just think that we should keep it the way it is now. I mean, I think Lori was trying to simplify it by
Right.
not having to have a meeting and seeing if we could just do it with an email. And it sounds like the lawyer came back and said, you can't do it with just an email.
Right.
So I think we should just go back to, we're gonna have to get together, and it's easy enough by Zoom to get 5 people together within a day. And we did, but the last time we had it,
Yeah,
so I don't remember the last time we had an emergency that we couldn't find 5 people to approve something. So until we have that problem,
Okay.
I don't think we should be changing that, or relinquishing
Okay.
that authority as a board. But that's my opinion.
that's a fair point, and you're right. It's come up once, maybe twice since the new policy went into effect, and it has not been an issue. So I agree with you. I just wanted to throw it out there. It was on my sort of notes that, so I'm open to whatever you guys think
Yeah, it is-
is appropriate for this.
It is true. Teams has made life a lot easier and the ability to have virtual meetings. I guess the only
Full board.
issue is that someone has to get to town hall to start the meeting, right? Or can we do that remotely now,
I don't know.
right?
Okay. Well, I'm fine with no change to that then. If that's what you guys think.
All right, well, it's something for us to contemplate anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a similar, if I can keep rolling along on a similar topic, I wanted to recommend a slight expansion to one of the exemptions listed in section 6.2. So right now, in that section right now, there's a list of, I don't know, maybe a half dozen items, one of which is investment managers. And I wanted to gauge your interest in expanding that to just be a little bit more broad to include banking and investment services in general. Just something that I wasn't really sure why specifically investment managers was separated out from the rest of the professional services. So I was just kind of thinking it might make sense to just make this a broader banking or investment related exemption.
I thought we did get investment managers to bid. Like, I didn't know they were exempt, to be honest with you. I didn't.
Well, so to your point, just because something's on this list doesn't mean we have to exempt it. It gives us another tool, though.
So what's the purpose of having the list? I'm not really sure I'm clear on why, if these are exempted.
That's a great question.
I mean, if they're either exempt or they're not exempt, so I don't really, I didn't think, we just recently went out for a bid, I thought, in investment managers. Didn't we just recently change?
We
Yeah,
changed
they don't
our,
charge us, I don't think they charge a fee.
changed the pension funds.
Was that-
They don't charge a fee. I don't know if that.
But I mean, we went out to bid though, didn't we
I
ask?
don't know the
more than
process.
one?
So-
It happened before I came on board, but I don't.
I thought so, but I don't really know. So I guess that's what so
I mean,
these,
I wouldn't want someone to
these are
just go out and
exceptions.
pick like their brother's investment manager.
right,
I would want them to get a bid from more than,
I-
I want to actually remove investment managers from this list.
I think that falls under the whole conflict though, and the whole ethics policy of related people. But I agree, you should be interviewing more than one, whoever.
Yeah, I don't wish to, I mean, there's a couple on here now that you bring to my, I mean, legal services, I can understand that if you want a specific expertise and you don't, but I would have thought legal
So,
services should go out to bid too.
audit services, we've always bid.
Yeah, I don't know, I kind of think we need to review this list.
But it's-
Where is, do you know what page the list is on?
Yeah, I was just on it.
I don't have the number handy, but it's 6.2 is the section.
Here, 6.
But you're saying you would put out like a public
It's page 21.
request, like an RFP for a law firm or an investment manager?
I mean, I haven't done it in Fairfield, but I have done it in previous towns.
It's pretty
Um,
common with pension funds to do that, but I've never, I mean, I've been a lawyer too, I've never heard of it in legal services, ever. I mean, maybe
I
they do.
I can't speak to the genesis of this list. I can't say, in my experience, it's not a crazy list of exemptions as I've seen in other towns. I think, the idea, I don't know, I guess the argument for something like legal services is, well, I don't know, because you can make this argument for almost anything, I guess, but, the ability to negotiate certain things sometimes is more beneficial to the town than having a public process. I don't know.
Yeah, so the only one, I understand with the educational professional, that usually is for this
Because that's usually
special-
like in a court
education.
order that they have to use,
Right.
and they can't, I get that one.
But like if we wanted to put a bank, like Adam's saying, like if we just switched money, right, from the state cash management thing or we moved it out of M&T.
We moved it from Peoples to somebody else.
So I always thought that did go out to bid. I didn't know that was
Should've.
listed here.
No, but I'm saying practically should it, or maybe, because it's sort of, I see what you're saying, like maybe you should, but what would you do? You go to like different banks and be like, I've got $50 million,
Yeah.
and everyone's gonna be like, okay, I'll charge you 10 bips, I'll charge you 12 bips. Pick, like,
Why not?
So I always,
I don't know, I don't know.
You just take the first bank that calls you, or do you get the best price?
I'd probably just like interview the relationship guy
Yeah.
and figure it out.
Well, I don't think investment managers
So I
or
always-
banks should be on this list.
yeah, so I always thought like with the pension board, a lot of times, a lot of good people wanted to be on the board, but their firms won't let them because then that takes them out of the running of being able to manage our firms.
That's it.
So I always thought that, that they weren't exempt.
It's,
But-
the other thing is that if you're gonna be like really to your nose on the language, if you're saying investment manager, that could in theory be interpreted to include the underlying fund manager of every single fund you see on our pension fund. So it's not just our outside CIO, it's, okay, some subsidiary of BlackRock that's managing a particular fund, some PE firm, that they all have investment managers. So like, I can see why that would make sense to just sort of keep that language there. Same with the 401k, for example. I think do we sponsor the 401k, or is it the state, the 403b or the state? We sponsor one too, yeah. So same thing, like all the sub-managers would be investment managers. So would we, and like somebody has to go out and,
Can we ask Connie in her experience, has she found there to be any, any issues with,
Well, typically, fees and professional services go out for RFP. And you don't necessarily have to select the lowest bidder and so forth. You go by expertise, experience, credentials, what they offer. So I think it's valuable to have banking, investment advisors, that sort of thing, submit RFPs and then have the town review and decide which is the best, investment advisor for the town of Fairfield. Doesn't necessarily have to be the lowest
Right.
person, but the best qualified. And I think they should still always get various parties for review, various people to offer proposals for review.
so you would say to take that off then?
I would probably take that off, in my opinion, but that's me. I don't think anyone should be exempt from a bid or RFP process. I think everyone should have an opportunity to present a proposal, have it reviewed, and put their hat in the ring and and, you know, try to get the best, try to get the bid.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
I think, yeah.
You guys want to just move on? I mean, I don't know if there's, I mean, this is not a.
It's not a huge,
We're not
I'm just
deciding
trying to
anything, right? We're
understand.
just deciding maybe.
Right, well, but we do have to start coming
We have
to
to
some
bring it
kind of
back.
conclusion to bring back.
Yeah.
But Adam, you were asking for us to expand there.
Well, I was just no, I was asking to expand just sort of under the structure as it currently is, but I hear what you guys are saying. I agree. I think so. I have no problem with what you've said. I guess the only I don't want to like. Hopefully this doesn't muddy things up anymore. But just an idea, like an example that popped into my head while you were talking was, there are, and this only comes to my mind because I recently had a conversation with the town attorney about a similar but unrelated matter where, the policy, the charter, they're silent on contracts that don't cost the town anything. So I don't know. Let's say, I don't know. Are there like I can't think of how these contracts work off the top of my head with like investment managers, but is it the kind of situation where we don't actually pay them anything, but they get a small fee, like from
Right. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like, so all those funds will have some operating expenses internally, and they're being paid, and there's an investment manager being paid on every single sub one. So, I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs on this, but I would say I'm with your idea of not adding another exemption, because a bank maybe isn't as complicated as.
Okay. So would you guys be comfortable, maybe Connie and I, or Connie, Tom and I, in the next few weeks can get together and honestly, this was an area I hadn't looked that carefully at because I just kind of had, accepted it as what it is. But hearing what you all are saying, as a professional purchasing agent, I don't disagree with what you're saying. So maybe we could spend some time over the next week or two looking at this, and then whenever the next meeting is, we can come back with some recommended cuts.
Okay.
Could I ask you guys, did we cover section 1 yet? Are we going in order?
Of the whole purchasing
Yeah.
policy? Well, Adam was originally leading us through his little thingy.
Is section 1 the table of contents, or what? What do you mean?
Section 1 relates to the stuff about the conflict of interest and the ethics policy, the town ethics policy. So we'd had some discussion on that.
I did.
I'm only asking because I had some notes on it, and if we're going sequentially, maybe we could just back up for a second.
So I did have like one or two brief comments. I touched on the conflict of interest earlier on. Basically, what I said was, this was largely me bringing it up to you guys a meeting or two ago was largely directed by the town HR department, and there's been a bit of turnover there lately. So I really don't have any updates on this. But if you have comments, let's talk about it.
Yeah, can I was reading it. So if you guys look at section 1, and you look at section 1 through 1.4, what we have there is a statement of purpose and then a sort of rephrasing of the standards of conduct for the town and the town ethics policy. So at the very beginning, this policy incorporates by reference the standards of conduct in the town charter and the town code of ethics, which is great. And I think it could sort of be left there, just incorporating them by reference. But what happens is that it starts to restate and paraphrase them. And I'll give you an example of the issues that I sort of think exist there. So if you look at 1.4 as an example, 1.4 says maybe the fifth bullet down, it says basically that no employee, town officer, et cetera, shall receive any remuneration of any kind in connection with the town contract. Okay, so that would, if you just sort of take that as it is, appear to create, to steal like an ERISA term, like a prohibited transaction. You just can't do it. But the standards of conduct in the town, the standards of conduct say that you can't knowingly receive any interest, which makes a lot more sense because the whole framework with the standards of conduct is to disclose and recuse. That is the standard that the standards of conduct create. So all that to say, this is fudging the language a little bit and actually I think making it confusing. So what I'm would advocate for is why don't we take out all this stuff that's rephrasing other policies and just have the purchasing policy just simply incorporate by reference the two relevant the ethics policy and the standards of conduct. And another thing that you had brought up, Mary, was like the difference in the dollar amount for the exemption on gifts. It's 50 in the ethics policy, it's 75. So I think there's just, anytime you're trying to rephrase something, why, it's there, just look at it. We don't need to rewrite it.
Yeah, so, well, this was written first, and then they went and wrote the ethics policy. So that, I assume that's what happened, is that's why it's different.
Interesting, okay.
But yeah, I think it's perfectly okay to reference the policies that exist otherwise in the town. And then if we have criteria that's more stringent, it's fine to put that too, that if we wanna make the dollar amount smaller or higher,
They're making it bigger.
yeah, so.
To me, I read that as it's probably just sort of a little clerical error.
Yeah, well, so they made it that you could accept a bigger gift, so if we wanted that to go back to a smaller gift, we could put it in here, or.
So, I mean, look, that's, my
Highlight.
suggestion is we
Yeah.
basically would take out 1.4 and also 1.3, the purchasing code of ethics. And you basically just have your, purpose and objectives, and then you get to some stuff that's not related to conflicts of interest, related to town policies. And my suggestion, I don't know if you have thoughts on it, I think your idea was similar though to,
Yeah, that was what the First Selectman's Chief of Staff had recommended, was that we just incorporate the new policy by reference.
I'm in favor of that.
Okay.
So the chief of staff actually issued the code of conduct as the chief of staff, or did it get issued as the town's HR department?
I think HR is the owner of it. I think, but I think they kind of worked. I think they worked on it together, but HR was the author of it. The department that issued it.
Then I would just agree that, I don't know which one's going to be harder to change. But I like the fact that the dollar amount is smaller in this one. Not in favor of increasing the amount. So.
I think it's the other way that, I think it's 75 in the policy, right? And it's 50 it's 75 in the purchasing policy and 50 in the ethics, isn't that right?
I don't know. I remember seeing the ethics and thinking it was higher, but I
Yeah,
don't.
that's what I had thought too, but I'm not positive.
So here.
Well, I'll take a look at that, and maybe we can, if that's true, maybe we could basically say what Mr. Penley just said, but call out a special bullet point to keep it lower. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's
That would be-
exactly
that'd
what
be
I
fine.
was thinking, is to reference the other two policies and then say, but specifically for the purchasing policy, this is in place, and whatever
But so-
points we want to include.
So to be clear, like the gift exemption is $75 in the purchasing policy.
Okay.
And if you look at the ethics policy, I think it's $50. So in other words, this would be like more permissive, right? 75.
Okay. So-
Until I see the ethics policy, I can't confirm what you just said, because Mary and I both remembered the exact opposite.
I have it here, hold on.
I see the 75 here.
Password.
Here we go, I got it. So we're talking about gifts. Okay, so the exemption for gifts is up to $50 in value of food or beverage, $50.
That's it? That's the only mention
Yeah.
of any type of money in the entire policy?
There's a total exclusion for
Oh,
$200.
that's what I was thinking, so. So 200 for the year, $50.
So,
For the most from one exchange.
they're sort of specifically talking about going out and getting like dinner, lunch with somebody. So
Yeah.
in the ethics policy, which
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was written after this, it's saying $50. They're not gonna look at $50. In the purchasing policy, it's $75. So it's doing the reverse. I mean, I think we're all in agreement on what we want,
Yes.
but it's doing it's inverted.
How do you feel about that amount?
Well, which policy supersedes is the question. Do you want to abide by the town ethics policy, or do you want to make your own limit in the purchasing policy?
I just throw one other thing out here, just in sort of sequentially, and just thinking of sort of what's the controlling law. Before any of this, you have the town charter. That creates a very, very clear conflict of interest policy, which shouldn't be any different in the ethics policy. As stated in the purchasing policy, as it's written now, it creates a different standard, because it's saying you cannot have a conflict of interest. The ethics policy explicitly states you can have a conflict of interest, you just got to disclose it, which is, it's probably the same way at your company, that's the way conflict policies work. Disclose, disclose. Sometimes there's areas where you have prohibited transactions. Happens in ERISA, you can't do it. But I don't think that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, it's a small town, it would be, somebody's gonna have related business, right? And what we want is people to disclose, not sort of push their finger on it. So this, to me, the way the purchasing policy is written is creating something that's different than the standards of conduct. And I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just a drafting mistake. So I just think we reference the policies.
Yes, I agree.
I have to say, I did not know that I missed that whole idea that this ethics policy was written like after this. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I would reference the policy, so this way you don't have two conflicting dollar amounts.
Yeah.
You know, it just adds confusion and ambiguity. I would just reference one policy, and that will be the guide to follow.
That's my,
So I think the reason for this is so someone's not offering something larger to someone in the purchasing department to get them to push that bid through or to accept their and so that's what the whole point is. It's not really, like, I know in the IRS guidance, it's the old turkey roll from $25 and hasn't changed in in 40 years, it's like.
Yeah.
So,
I think they should be consistent at least. What if somebody takes $75? And there's some confusion, well, should it have been 50, should it have been 75?
what if somebody receives a financial interest in a contract? They've violated this policy, they haven't violated the standards of conduct or the ethics policy.
Guys, if I could just interject quickly, I don't have to leave, but I need to go to audio only for a few minutes. My son's football practice just ended, and I got to get him into the car and everything. But I will still be listening.
I guess I have to really compare them side to side a little closer, because I can see things on both sides, and I'm trying to figure out what we're trying to do here, and if it, it's like one thing if someone brings a box of candy at Christmas time to a department and says, hey, Merry Christmas, or whether, someone's trying to fly them out to Las Vegas and for a weekend of fun.
Would not even accept the wrapped cookies at Christmas time because that was considered a conflict of interest. We had to bring them over to Operation Hope and donate them.
Seems like if anything, they should rewrite the town ethics policy and just have this reference those policies. But yeah, so many different versions going on. This is exactly why you don't do stuff like that. Why you just reference existing policies.
Like you said, town charter supersedes everything, all the policies, even these internal policies. Well, we can review that further and discuss it at the next meeting, but I agree, I think it's just reference town charter and town of Fairfield ethics policy.
Stuff like the dollar amount, if that's something that the town should, seems like they could do that in their ethics policy.
I have one final item if we're ready to move on, or
Yes.
Sure.
Are you at a good point to move on, or?
yeah, as long as you don't mind not seeing my face.
Sure. We've all been there.
All right, so I can't remember if I already hinted at this during the meeting or not, but we did, well, it should have been in your backup. We recently updated the non-purchase order voucher policy, or as we colloquially refer to it, the pink voucher policy. And we've greatly reduced the amount, the types of purchases that this can be used, or the type of expenses that this can be used for. And so this, in section 9.2 of the purchasing policy, it references the old items. So we need to update that to match the new pink voucher policy. Now, in light of what we're just saying, do we just reference it, or do we, I yield to you guys on there, defer to you guys on that. If you want to change the list as it exists to match the new pink voucher policy, or just reference the pink voucher policy, what do you think?
I'm not super familiar, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with what a pink voucher.
Well, I'll give you a little background on it, because I know this is Mary's favorite subject. Every time we have a meeting, she asks about the pink vouchers. So basically, the pink voucher is also known as a payment voucher. The reason why it's called a pink voucher is simply because it's a pink piece of paper. And it differentiates it from the thousands of other pieces of paper that flow through the finance department. So the pink voucher is just another means of payment of goods and services. And there is a policy for the use of the pink vouchers, which places restrictions on what you can and cannot submit for payment to the finance department. There were 17 different items bulleted in our pink voucher policy of what you could put on these pink vouchers. And of course, the pink voucher had to have appropriate backup documentation, an invoice, et cetera. And it went through a review process. There had to be a person who requested it, a department head supervisor, had to go to the finance department budget director. He reviewed it, he approved it. Then if it was over $2,500 in total, it went to the CFO, who reviewed and approved it as well. These signatories were present. It went to accounts payable. She paid it. Now, these pink vouchers never get submitted through purchase requisition. It never gets submitted on a purchase order in Munis. It simply is a payment on a pink piece of paper, gets paid that way, as I had originally discussed. And so I felt was one of the weaknesses in internal controls was the purchasing department never saw these pink vouchers. It simply was the department head, the budget director, the CFO, and at certain times at the year end, the controller. But these pink vouchers primarily should be for small purchases that don't require bids. You don't need the 3 quotes. The list was typically travel and meeting reimbursement, petty cash reimbursement, safety boots, a membership dues, small ticket items. It reduces the number of purchase orders that flow through the purchasing department, and also expedites the payment a little quicker because it goes through the finance department a little quicker than a purchase requisition. So what we were seeing, though, is I had done an audit of pink vouchers, and I was seeing that sometimes compliance to our policy was not met. And I said to Mr. Harris, I said, you have 2 options. Number 1, strictly reduce what can and cannot go on pink voucher, change your pink voucher policy, or if you want departments to continue to use it, expand it, add more bullets onto your list. One way or the other, let's focus on streamlining and improving this pink voucher policy. So Mr. Harris agreed. He said, yes, definitely, I want to reduce the number of pink vouchers. I want to increase internal controls. I want more eyes on this, and I want it to flow through our Munis accounting system, just like regular purchase requisitions and purchase orders. So we collaborated with Adam Toolin, the 3 of us together, and also collaborated with our accounts payable, and we decided we were going to greatly and drastically reduce what types of payments can be made with a pink voucher. So the 17 items now went down to 3. We reduced it to petty cash reimbursements and payroll deductions, only finance related, which are wage garnishments and that sort of thing. And the 3rd would be year-end closing, and there's some invoices when the new fiscal year is opened, sometimes invoices can't be paid on the old fiscal year, so they have to be put on a pink voucher. And those are all reviewed by the controller and should not be very many at year end. So we think we've drastically reduced the number of items that flow through.
What was the 3rd one called? What did you call
So
it?
we have.
I have the
Payroll, and I was, for example, an example of a payroll deduction that would go on pink voucher would be a wage garnishment, child support. That's to the state of Connecticut.
And then there was a 3rd one after.
And the 3rd one was year-end closing of invoices. And those have to be reviewed and approved by the controller.
But I think the goal is to really hopefully eliminate them.
Right, so this was effective August 4th. We sent a memo out to the department heads. We had a meeting with department heads. We explained that there's a new process, that finance will no longer be paying any payment submitted to finance on a pink voucher unless it's a petty cash reimbursement. It's for this year-end closing, only upon notification of the controller, or if it's only finance related, the payroll and financial. That will only be handled through finance. So really, departments only have to worry about petty cash and year-end closing.
What is a petty cash reimbursement example?
So, for example, right now we have about 11 departments that actually have a petty cash fund that range in different dollar amounts depending on the needs of the department. I believe the highest is $3,000 at the police department. And what they do is they are authorized to make payments out of this petty cash. Is basically a box with money in it. And they can buy small things that they need. For example, police department sometimes has to buy meals for prisoners. They'll run out to McDonald's and get them a cheeseburger, and they'll use the petty cash for that. So small departmental purchases. And once they've met their quota, for example, a police department, if they meet their quota, $3,000, they take all their receipts, they attach it to this pink voucher, and they say, please, we've spent our $3,000, this is what we spent it on, these are the account numbers you have to charge it to, fees and professional, whatever it is, travel and meeting, and I'd like to replenish my supply. So that's basically what it is. It's a lot of small receipts that are getting attached to these pink vouchers. So, and it's very few and far
So they're
between.
only replenished as needed?
As
Not
needed.
like
Correct.
weekly or quarterly?
No, it's like maybe
I
every
think I've
couple
seen
months.
one or two since I've been at
Some
DPW.
departments have them, they
It's
don't
very
use
infrequent.
them.
Okay, so it's like postage or
Yeah,
something
postage,
like
they have to
that?
go buy a
Okay.
They
stamp.
make change, some departments need to make change. People are coming with cash.
Yeah. Well, they also have change funds, but they don't get replenished. The petty cash is strictly for departmental use.
So as it is.
Small goods and
Sorry.
services.
The voucher, so as it is now, there was a list, and you could only submit it if something appeared on the list.
Correct.
But nonetheless, there were things approved that were not on the list. Is it-
Yes.
why- like, explain.
I think
Because then
over
reducing the list
time,
doesn't
I think number
solve that
one,
problem.
it was a department not familiar with the policy. Department's not trained in the policy.
Can I just interject real quick to that specific
ahead.
question? So in addition to these changes, we've also adjusted the voucher form itself so that the purchasing director now is the sort of the first line of defense. So, once a department head signs in their line, then it will come to me. Whereas previously purchasing was nowhere on the document. So
That's good.
Yeah, Adam is speaking to the overall workflow for the purchasing process, because in the past, I would get a requisition, and one of the requirements may be for a bid waiver that happened at the back end. So right now, we said everything all of the documentation needs to be on the front end of the process, and it begins with Adam, then it flows through the system.
There were two major changes, and as Tom stated, yes, that was one of the other changes we made in the finance department. Was previously there was a backlog. Purchase requisitions were getting stuck on certain people's approval process through Munis. And then once it finally got approved by department heads, et cetera, then it went to Adam, who reviewed it and said, well, no, I'm sorry, you have to bid this, and he'd have to reject it and have to go start all over again. So now, instead of Adam being at the end of the approval process, he's now at the beginning of the review and approval process. He reviews it, says yes or no, yay or nay, or if it has to be bid, if you need 3 quotes, or if you're using the improper vendor, incorrect vendor, or if he has a better vendor, he will suggest that in the workflow process. But the biggest one was the pink voucher, and at first it was departments were a little hesitant to use it, but you know what? A couple of times you explain it, you show them how to, department heads would say, I don't know how to enter a purchase requisition. I always did it on this pink piece of paper. And so what we did was we created a tutorial, and it's available to all the town employees. It's on our town website, and it's a 9-minute thing. Very easy. They watch it. Oh, now I know how to do it. And of course, we run down to the departments and we show them what to do as well. And they've all gotten the hang of it. They understand it now, and I think they're happy. So now, previous things that were on all these pieces of paper flowing all over the department are now streamlined. We have it all in Munis. We're up to date with modern technology now. So everything now has to go through a purchase requisition in Munis with the proper backup. It goes to a purchase order. Adam Toolin reviews it now, and again says yay or nay, and it goes to. Then once he approves it, goes to a purchase order, and it gets ultimately paid as long as the proper backup is present. So we're very happy. I think this is better follows the town purchasing policy and increases our internal controls. I think it's a much better system. Do you have any questions?
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I am too. I've been here since 1991. I'll tell you a little story. Back in 1991, we had 2 lovely ladies who sat in a little booth with a manual typewriter, and they typed on 3-part carbon copy paper every single purchase. purchase order all day long, every day. And so that's where it kind of originated in the late 80s. They said, well, we got to reduce this number of purchase orders these poor ladies are typing. So that's when they said, look, if somebody's buying postage stamps, do we really need to, put it on a purchase order and have this lady type a purchase order for 35 cents? So that's where the pink voucher had originated, and over the years, it slowly developed into more items added to the list, and more items, and more items. And like I said, and sometimes the reason why the policy wasn't followed was sometimes we don't have a standard place to post policies where employees can review and understand them, the training, that sort of thing.
On the final thing though, we're looking at 9.2, right? 9.2? Is it?
Yes.
Adam, have it.
There's more than 3. Like, am I not looking?
Yes, in the old policy, like I said, that excerpt that they had in the purchasing policy did not have 17 items. It was updated probably in, I want to say 2017, and then there was a final update in 2022. So that was a formal excerpt from an old purchasing, pink voucher policy in that purchasing guide that you're looking at right now. Purchasing policy. But there are, in the old policy, there were 17 items of acceptable expenses. Now we've whittled it down to 3, hopefully 3.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is I guess this is going to be submitted to the full board for voting. As this is the final policy,
Well, I
because
believe
there's.
it's an internal policy.
Yeah,
Well, so the reason I brought it up here is that, so in this section 9.2, I think we need to amend this language to now match
Right.
what the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that should be amended and to reference, again, this is a living document. It's always going to change. These policies will probably always change as well. So maybe just reference,
Petty cash payroll deductions.
Yeah.
Deductions, zero.
yeah, the purchase or the pink voucher policy effective, August 4th, 2023.
Oh,
I think that's the best thing to do. Don't you agree?
yes.
So Adam, there's been a lot of changes in the past year that we should be fixing in this policy. Do you have more planned, or are we now, you've looked at it and once these are implemented, then you're good for a couple years?
Well, I feel a little hesitant. I feel optimistic. I feel like we're in a good place right now. I guess the only reason I'm hesitant is because, 6 months ago, the pink voucher policy was not on my radar, and now it is. So that's the only reason I'm hesitant to say affirmatively we're good. But I've spent a lot of time over the last year looking through this, and the things I brought up tonight are really kind of the last things I'm looking at.
But
So the things we're looking at right now, as Adam mentioned, we're looking at the credit card policy. That's something that, we're looking at all of our accounting policies, procedures, which we hope to have something to present to the board in November. We're looking at the credit card policy. And we're looking at software to address the employee reimbursement process. So those are things we're looking at. Whether we change or do something different, we don't know yet.
and all are good things.
Yeah,
So,
and in terms of the purchasing policy, 9.4, section 9.4 briefly touches on credit card, but all it really says is, we just need to make sure all the same purchasing rules apply to credit cards as they apply to purchase orders. So I don't think if we come up with a new internal credit card policy that anything in purchasing policy would have to change, but I guess we'll have to see how drastic it is.
okay, so I guess from my point of view, why I was asking this question is that this purchasing committee was set up to review how the current policy, which took quite a while to get actually created and in place and updated. That took a few years, and then we were supposed to review how it was going and maybe make a few administrative changes. And now we're looking at least 3 or 4 major changes to the policy. And whether we make them all or not, I'm not certain yet. But that's what I was trying to get a handle on. Are we going to be able to, like, what should we go back to the board with? Like, it seems like some specific updates, so at least we're not, the purchasing policy isn't conflicting with other policies, that they somehow are merged together, or, there's a path to follow. And then I want to make sure it's workable, that the policy that exists is what's being used and doesn't conflict with what the town's policies are internally. And then whether this committee might need to continue on for part 2 with more changes, I guess, is what it sounds like to me. But whether that could wait like 2 years or not, I don't know.
Well, I guess my question would be: is there a scenario where I don't know, what's behind the scenes, but like where basically this committee is sort of in existence but only needs to meet if something comes up, or like how does that work structurally? Like.
So we didn't have a formal, so in the past, there was only a formal committee every 10 years or so to update the policy. And then we would go another 10 years with the existing policy. It seems like so much has changed that we need more of a continuing look at the purchasing policy, that maybe it's something that needs to be looked at every 2 years and tweaked like every couple of years.
I would feel good about a time period like that every 2 or 3 years, because that would give us enough time. Because honestly, we're coming up on 2 years now, and I just, not just, but I'm starting to really feel like I've got a real handle on the document and what changes are needed. So yeah, I think if we could get together every 2 or 3 years to address any new things that might come up, that would be satisfactory for me.
Okay. So I think what I would like to recommend is looking at our calendars and scheduling, maybe 1 or 2 more meetings. And one would be that we have to now go back and reread, our policy and the ethics policy, and really come to a decision amongst the 3 of us on how you want the purchasing policy to read. If it's just a reference to the ethics policy in the charter, code of conduct, or whether we want more specific language in there, whether we want to just pull that piece out, or do we like what's in here and think it belongs in here. And I could see it being some of each, that I guess my view is probably reference the other policies, and then if there's anything more specific I think needs to be in here, leave it in here. And then the same thing with the other pieces, I think, with the exceptions and things, I think we just have to read them and think about what we feel comfortable with. And was there one more thing that you wanted us to put in about the process too, about the bid process that,
MRO.
is that what that is? Well,
no,
if there was a bid that was questioned by a vendor on who was selected, I think you wanted a more formal process outlined.
For the local MRO, or?
No, so when, I thought at one time we discussed that when we selected the winner of a bid, that you wanted a more formal policy on if it was questioned, that if there was an appeal process, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep, I did not prepare that tonight. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. So if I could have time to prepare that for the next meeting.
Sure.
Yeah. There is some language in there, but I think I wanted to tighten it up. But I'm trying to remember. Oh. Yeah, let me prepare that.
I don't want to keep everyone here. It's 7:30 already. I don't want to keep everyone here all night if with, or do you think there's more?
Does it make sense to, is there anything that we agree on, like the pink vouchers? Does it make sense to just like sort of agree? I mean, I get the other, like, there's a lot of them that are not, maybe people need to stew on them, but the pink voucher thing seems, if all it's gonna do is reduce it and reference whatever their policy is, I mean, I would be ready to vote on that if that's the process.
Right, I mean, I think that's something that these guys are already planning on doing. They
Right.
just haven't done it yet, right?
Yeah, so it's just
Updating the wording for the,
updating the wording in here.
I
and I'll be fine with whatever you guys do. I don't think that one's gonna require us to discuss. You were talking
We have
about.
kind of moved on with that.
You've moved, yes. It's even better, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I
And
just
it's,
think
it's a
what,
good change. I agree with it.
what Connie was saying was just, I don't know what your internal policy is called, maybe it's the pink voucher policy, but I think
It's
just,
called pink
Yeah.
voucher.
so in 9.2, it should reference that rather than that.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you have something already written out that
Um,
explains it,
We
or?
basically are just going to take our policy from a couple of years ago and update the list of acceptable uses and just maybe also add higher levels of approvers into our existing policy. Other than that, it's pretty much ready to go, and, you know,
Okay.
we have a nicely written policy, we'll just update it to reflect the changes.
Okay,
Let me ask, oh, go ahead.
go ahead. No.
I'm kind of surprised that the credit card purchases is only one sentence. So maybe, and I don't, I'm assuming that after everything that we've gone through with credit cards in the past 5 years or whatever it was, that there is a more formal credit card policy?
We do have a formal credit card policy in place. You could also refer to town credit card
That's what
policy.
that's all I was gonna refer.
Yeah,
I
we
was just
do
saying,
have a
if
credit
it's
card
not
policy.
folded into this, then at
Right.
least it needs to refer
Right,
to it.
Yeah.
Because it does involve purchasing of goods and
That'd be great.
services, only in a different manner. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that's a good idea.
All right, so we would come back with, I think we said they would internally decide on those exemptions, the ones that had the banking and the messenger come
Yes.
amongst themselves. They would come back with an opinion on that, and then we could maybe discuss what they just,
Right.
and then it sounds like the only other thing is the wording on this.
Yeah, so that's what I guess I'm
Policy.
trying to see is how are we gonna get to the preferred changes, like the actual wording in here? Is that something that Connie can work with Adam?
Yeah, I
To-
see
to
Adam
get-
every day, so we can
Okay.
definitely do that.
Right, so whatever is a fair amount of time that will help us decide how much time to leave for another meeting, because we really don't need to meet before that's prepared,
Right.
I would think.
I would just say, knowing myself, it doesn't have to be like next week, but sooner the better, so we keep momentum going.
Maybe like our fourth quarter meeting, like before the last meeting of the year.
Yeah, so like,
Well,
when were you thinking, Mary?
so for me, the sooner the better, because I'm not running again, so,
So you're saying
in
before
November, I'd
before
have-
November,
Before December, right?
Well,
Yeah.
before
So-
November.
yeah. what do you think?
So I'm looking, September gets to be kind of busy. Does Mondays at 6 still work for both of you?
Yeah,
Is that?
Let's see the
time?
date.
Yeah.
Who's playing that Monday night?
Um, So in September, I don't know what our meetings are. So we could try for September 22nd. Gives us 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Adam, does that work for you?
Yeah, no problem for me. Does it, I'm not sure of any, does that impact anyone that follows any holidays or anything? I'm not
I'm
sure.
on a business trip, but I can probably zoom in depending on
Well, is there
Yeah.
another date that's
dining with.
better, push it to the 29th or the,
I can't do the
we
29th.
can't do the 29th? 15th or we can,
15th is fine with me too.
I think it's just before the quarterly, right?
I think quarterly's next week, right?
So it's the 15th,
There's the what?
quarterly, 16th.
Oh.
No, 16th is quarterly, yeah, sorry.
Do the 15th?
Would you want to do it like right before the meeting, or is that just too long of a slog for everybody?
sometimes I have audit committees and
Yeah.
Connie does too, right?
Yeah, it's hard for me to get here on a
Yeah, whatever.
Tuesday.
Monday the 15th is okay for me if it's okay.
All right.
for you guys.
Okay.
So is the 15th okay?
15th at 6?
At 6? Okay.
Just a couple of months.
And then do we want to set up a second one or hold off and wait?
So, like ultimately, you're just trying to get to the point where we can recommend amended language in the policy, right?
And go back to the Board of Finance where they can approve something without, so we want to be able to explain why we're making a change and what the change should be.
Yeah. We have 4 or 5 things here.
Yeah.
I would say let's, rather than have this thing be in limbo, maybe we can come back to them with these recommendations, and then, like you were saying, keep the committee open.
Going
As
and
needed.
for the credit cards and whatever's ongoing.
So do you think we would be able to come back on the 15th? Talk about language that they will have presented
Yeah.
and come to some sort of agreement that we can present the next day?
I mean, there's
Because I think that would be
only
ideal.
Yeah, possibly.
I don't know what we need to do to formally present. If it can be just, we've had a meeting and this is where we landed and we're presenting it to you because it's not like we had to make a decision. We came
Right.
together with this recommendation, right?
Yes.
We're coming
So
together
it-
with a recommendation to the full board.
Exactly. So as long as Connie and Adam can draft something out the week before and get it to us, so we have like a couple days to read it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't foresee it being too
So that
many
would
changes.
actually be ideal, and I can talk to Lori and see if she can put us on the calendar for
We'll
an
talk about the
update.
exemptions, a reference to the other policies. There's not too many changes to be made.
Okay, and then the only other thing I will do is then hold off on scheduling other meetings to see how that goes. The only reason I was thinking about doing more is that to approve minutes, it has to be on the calendar, I think it's 30 days. And so Jen's always like, no, you can't approve minutes, no, you can't approve. So that's why, but it's fine.
So you're saying, what, today is we're short of 30 days this week.
Yeah. But that's okay.
You want to push it out?
Or we just set up a second meeting,
Okay, yeah, we just,
What do you mean?
just for the continuation of, credit cards or anything else that may come up.
But the
So-
next meeting that we just discussed on
So
the
you want-
15th, is that, it's
So we're gonna try to come up to, it's gonna
not
be,
with it, it's shorter than 30 days, so.
right, she
we're
can't
not-
approve them.
so we wouldn't be able to approve our minutes from tonight.
Oh, okay.
But,
I got you.
that's the only difference, but you can't,
But there were minutes hanging out from 2 years ago. So I
Yeah.
don't think we should
That's
worry
true.
about that.
Yeah, good point.
You just want to
Yeah.
You just want to be
I
a
just
good
want to
chair.
keep Jen happy.
Yes, you want to be a good
The
chair.
right thing.
All right, I get it.
This is what we have, right? I counted 6 things that that you guys are gonna come
Uh,
back with. Is that
So
what we
that's
got?
good, good summary.
I have local MROs, emergency procurement, the exemptions in 6.2.
I said, wait a second now.
Here, let me just summarize. Can you go back and,
So this
I got the local
these are just my notes. So local MRO process,
Oh.
the emergency procurement procedure, the exemptions in 6.2, that's like the banks and stuff.
Mhm.
The pink vouchers,
Yeah.
the appeal process, and then the ethics section 1, ethics and conflicts of interest. And
And the reference to
Right.
the credit card policy.
credit card policy, so.
We have the reference to
you-
the pink voucher, the code of conduct.
what was your first one, somehow?
Local MROs? The local MRO?
Oh, MRI.
So basically, that one is Adam will be reviewing on a quarterly basis. Did we ever come up with a date for this office out for our audit subcommittee?
Well, that's what I thought it was the 9th, but I'm not really
The
sure.
audit subcommittee, I just saw, yes, the 9th at 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay, oh goodness, that's September 9th.
Sometimes that's where I get confused because they talk about the same topics sometimes.
Yeah.
When is John?
What?
When is John?
Those two, yeah. All right, anything else that any communications or anything? Okay, can I have a motion to call this meeting?
I'll make the
Jim
motion.
and Shay? Okay, meeting is ended.
Thank you, everybody.